This painting was on my easel for close to 6 months. Let's talk about it. As a YouTube artist, I often feel the pressure to put out really quick artwork so that I can put out regular content. And oftentimes the subjects that I choose and the medium that I choose are dependent on what's popular on my channel at the time. And so that means that there's a few different materials that I don't get to use as often as I would like. So oftentimes I will have a long-term project going on in the background while I am doing my product reviews, while I'm working with the different pencils that you've requested to see, so that I have something that I can enjoy just for me. And I don't often film these projects, but I did this time because I think it's important to talk about doing art just for yourself and taking that time, even though this was me just stealing little moments here and there to work on this pretty extensive project. It actually took me around 10 hours in all to complete, but it was spanned over the time of about 6 months. This is not going to be a step-by-step tutorial, but I will talk a little bit about my process because I often have one of these big projects going on that I know is going to take a while, that is really detailed, that I can really put my all into in between other things. It's kind of a balancing act, but it's really a place where I can go and just be me and create just for me. And so I'm going to talk about that process. We'll talk a little bit about this frog and what this project means to me. So let's just get down to it. As an artist, I have pieces that I consider to be personal showstoppers. I wouldn't necessarily call them masterpieces, but they are the paintings that push me to become a better artist. They are the paintings that I do just for the love of painting. They are the paintings that I do to challenge myself. They are the paintings that I do for personal and artistic growth. And they are my selfish paintings, right? These are the paintings I do just for me. And this is one of those paintings. And 99% of the time, I tend to work from my own reference photos, and oftentimes I will know as soon as I take a specific reference photo if it is going to be one of those pieces for me. And I knew that with this fella. He is something that has actually been in the works technically since 2018. I took the reference photo back in 2018. I think I was still in school. There is a cute little frog/turtle pond on the campus where I went to college, and it is right out next to one of the art buildings. And we would oftentimes go out there and visit the little frogs and the turtles. And of course, me having my phone on me at all times, I would take reference photos there. And I would often visit this pond even when I wasn't at school. Me and my close friends would go there and visit these little creatures, even on days off from class. So that is where I met this little fella. I'm going to call him Frankie. Franklin, I think, but Frankie for short. I actually named the painting the Prince of the Pond because obviously Frog Prince. He is a regal little fellow, and I was so excited when he was staying still long enough for me to take many photos of him. And of course, I got this close-up of him that immediately I knew I was going to want to paint. Now, often when I get a photo like that, when I've taken a photo like that, I sit on it for a while because I'm trying to figure out which medium I want to use to paint this painting. I'm trying to figure out all the techniques I want to use. I know that I'm going to spend a lot of time with this subject. So what do I want to do as far as techniques? What medium? How long do I want to invest in it? So I took the picture in 2018, and then of course I mulled it over for a while, and I did some thumbnail sketches, and I did one in my sketchbook, probably I think it was in 2022. So this was like a long going thing. When I say 6 months, that was from the time that I started putting paint to panel. Like, this is something I mulled over for a while, and he's not the only project that's like this. Now, I don't tend to be a slow painter in general, nor am I slow with colored pencils. I do tend to actually work really fast. And I have to work fast for projects that are specifically for videos because I need to be able to put content out. And so that means I'm often doing smaller projects, quicker projects, but occasionally I want to treat myself to a challenge. I love being challenged and I want to spend a long time on something. Again, I mentioned in the intro that this actually took around 10 hours of work. Now, a lot of that was because I was being extremely nitpicky, and I am kind of a type A personality. I tend to be a perfectionist. I wanted to be a perfectionist on this one. I wanted to take my time and go back and forth. A lot of these elements were a challenge to me. The water, I have never painted water up close like this before. That was one of the elements that drew me to this. I had never painted a frog this up close before. There was a lot of detail in the photo, and I knew that I wanted to try and take my time to capture that detail. Now, 6 months really, it flew by, honestly, because I would go weeks without working on him. So oftentimes I also, again, I have to work outside of the home. So I have a day job and then I have my YouTube channel. So in between other projects, I'd be working on a pencil project and then maybe that evening I'd put like 45 minutes in on this painting, or I would put 20 minutes here or an hour there. And it was very slow going, but in those moments, I allowed myself to just put on some music, get into the zone, and just be there and be present with this painting. And I need that every once in a while. I need something just for me. These are the kinds of projects that really make me feel like an artist. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the quick watercolor pencil works, which some of those aren't that quick. Some of those have 4 or 5 hours put into them too. And every time I had to do a project like that, of course, it takes time away from me doing a project like this. But that is one reason why I always have some sort of project like this going, so that I can find that balance, so that I can play with my paint alongside with my pencil, so I can do something that is a project just because I want to paint it, not because the audience is looking for this or I'm doing a review. And I have other projects like this as well. Before this one, I had an oval-shaped bumblebee painting. That was on the easel for like 3 years. I had to take a huge break from that while I was renovating the studio because I can't paint with oils down in my home around the animals and things like that. So that painting really took a huge backseat, and it's one of my favorite paintings that I've ever done. It's one of my all-time favorite oil paintings, especially. It challenged me, and it really helped me grow as an artist. And before that, I had another acrylic painting that was, I think it's like an 18 by 36. That one was a beast. That took me over a year because I was in school at the time, I was doing YouTube, and I was working. And so I was just stealing these moments away to do those paintings. And I do think that's important because as artists, especially if you are aspiring to become a full-time artist or if you are already a full-time artist, if you are a commission artist, oftentimes we are doing art that is for other people in some way or another. Now, granted, I love all the subjects I've been drawing and painting lately. Again, most of those are from my own reference photos. I love working from my own photos because I'm painting my own memories. Although that big 18 by 36 painting that took me a year, that was from one of my close friends' photos because they were generous enough to send me a photo to paint. But I digress. I like painting these memories. And so it's not that I'm not enjoying these quick paintings that I do for YouTube, because I do. My mind works really fast, so I love working quickly. And oftentimes my acrylic paintings are quick too. But every once in a while I pull out these slow burner, showstopper, challenge pieces. And sometimes I don't even film it. I had filmed some of my bumblebee, but I had never really enough footage for me to really make a real video out of it. I didn't film my big landscape piece because I had so much other stuff going on. And the priority here was I wanted to make a beautiful painting. I loved spending the moment with this frog, that moment in time where I got down on his level and he just stayed there. And I was able to take pictures and observe him in real time. And then creating this realistic painting of him was me spending more time with him. So oftentimes, if I'm going to do a big project like this, it is a project that speaks to me in some way. It's either a memory or it's a scene that I want to spend a lot of time with. And it's therapeutic to me. So I just want to let you know, like, if you're doing the grind, if you are out there hustling so that you can make it work as an artist and you find yourself creating artwork just to get out there and just to have some sort of content, please, take the time, even if it takes you 6 months to finish a painting because you can only do it 5 minutes here or there. But if it's a painting that you really love and is just for you, take that time to do that. I already have my next big project like this planned, and it is something that it's going to be a huge painting. I expect that to take a very long time to do, and it's a subject that's near and dear to me, and it's definitely something that is part of my memories and who I am. And so I will always probably have one of these in the background, and oftentimes you don't necessarily know about it. As I mentioned, acrylics, for instance, don't tend to be very popular on this channel. So I'm always trying to give you content that you like, but I also want to find that balance where I can show you the other facets of my life as an artist as well. And this is one of them. This is often something that I have. Sometimes you might see it in the background of my intros, but these are projects that are going on alongside all of the different content you're seeing. I've probably done 6 or 7 other pieces of artwork since I started this because of YouTube. And I like that. It gives me something to go back and forth on. It gives me this dynamic kind of variety in my life as well, because occasionally I don't want to play with pencils. I want to play with my paint. And so I can go back and forth between this and whatever other project I am working on. So this took a long time, not just because it's a very detailed painting and I put a lot of thought into it, but also because I was fitting it into my life as an artist and as a pharmacy technician, as a YouTube artist and a pharmacy technician. This was something that was very special to me. And I learned a lot from this painting. I learned a lot. Again, some of these were techniques I hadn't had to do before. And as far as the materials that I'm using a variety of acrylic paints from a bunch of different companies. I have some Holbein and Golden and Daler Rowney. There are acrylic inks and medium-bodied paints. I tend to work with medium-bodied and inks more often. I like the thinner to, medium-bodied paints because I like to layer a lot. But I do have a few heavy-body paints. I think I used a few Golden Open, depending on what technique I was looking for. The Golden Open are actually beautiful for glazing, and so I used that a lot. And you'll see me come in with some acrylic markers, and I am working on an ampersand encaustic board. This is one of my favorite panels for marker and for acrylics. Even though it's for encaustics, it's a beautiful mixed media board. You've seen me use this panel quite often on the channel, actually. And all these different acrylics worked really well together. And if you want to know more about my acrylics, I do have an upcoming video that I'm going to be doing soon. I've been doing a series where I talk about the different art supplies I have, why I use what I use, and I've been going according to medium. I've done one on colored pencil, on pastel, on markers. I'm going to start getting into the paint soon, and the acrylics are probably going to be the first ones that I show you. So that'll be coming up in a few weeks, I think. So if you're curious about the acrylics that I like to use the most, you'll see that in a couple weeks. And as far as brushes go, I am a cheap date. Most of my brushes are cheap, no-name tack-on brushes from Amazon. And some of them don't even have, like when I say no name, I have a liner brush you're going to see me using here that literally just says China on the side. I don't even know what kind of company, like what it was even trying to be as far as a company goes, because it doesn't even have a brand name on it at all. But that's one thing that I love about acrylics is you can use a lot of different brushes. Tack-on brushes tend to be my favorite. I'm not picky about brushes. As long as it's not falling apart and the bristles aren't falling out, I'm fine. I like the Golden Tack-on. That's the material I like to work with working with acrylics. Perfectly fine. See, here's that no name. It literally just says China on the side, and like the size, I think it's like a size 0 or a 00 or something. I can't tell. But I have no idea. That brush came from Amazon. I don't know what company it is. But yeah, so you're going to see for the finer details, you're going to see a lot of the acrylic inks because those are really, really nice with a fine liner. They're going to get in and give me that fine detail that I'm looking for in the eye and in the different spots and crevices and bumps and everything else on his skin. And I used a lot of that in the water as well and on the leaves. And occasionally you'll see me come in with a Molotow acrylic marker, and I also use a Holbein refillable acrylic ink marker as well, here and there on the eye. And again, this was a lot of back and forth. I allowed myself to be a little bit pickier than usual. There's a lot of adjustments along the way. And the way that I initially sketched him out, I mentioned I did a thumbnail sketch in my sketchbook, and the thumbnail sketch was actually only a 4x5. Now, I did that because I knew I'd be able to blow it up evenly to an 8x10. I knew I was going to do this as an 8x10 because, good Lord, if I had done this any larger, well, we wouldn't be having this conversation today, would we? Because we wouldn't be having this conversation for like, another year probably if this was a larger painting. But I knew I was going to be working with an 8x10. So whenever I do a thumbnail sketch or a preliminary sketch in my sketchbook, I will try to format it so that it will blow up to whatever size I want the actual artwork to be. So a 4x5 will scale up to an 8x10 evenly. So I did a 5x4 or a 4x5 inch sketch, and I used some crossbars, but it was mainly freehanded. And then I scanned it into the computer and blew it up to an 8x10, and I printed it out. And then I went over it and came into it with some fresh eyes and did some sketch marks over it to make any adjustments that I needed to make sure that the proportions were correct. And then I used a color that I knew I would be using in the painting with chalk pastel, and I scribbled it on the back of that printed outline. And then I put that pastel side down on my panel, traced over my frog, and it transferred my frog drawing to the panel. And then the rest, as you see, is history. So I basically just drew out the frog, and the rest I laid in with paint after. And I find that works really well because when I'm sketching, I like to do quicker thumbnail sketches, and I like to work smaller. My brain works really well that way. I find that's a really quick and easy, laid-back way to get a preliminary sketch done. And it's also great because I have the original sketch in case anything happens and I have to start over. I have to say, though, I sketched him a few times in my sketchbook before I got a sketch that I was happy with. And again, I made plenty of adjustments after I blew it up on the computer and printed it out and did like kind of a side-by-side with the reference. I just adjusted as I went, and I took my time with that process as well. As I mentioned, the sketch was done back in like 2022, and then I didn't start this painting until 2024. So he's been in the works for a very long time. And as I mentioned before, I have another painting that I'm going to be doing like this, most likely in acrylics, that I have had the reference photo for a long time. That one's going to be particularly meaningful to me, so I've really been sitting on it, and I plan on working large. And I do think that there's something to be said for creating in your mind before you start on a really extensive project like this. Like, I do work a lot of things out in my mind. Now, I don't think you should do this with every single project, because sometimes that means you just don't get started. I'm able to do this with these specific projects because I have all kinds of other creative projects going on. I am always consistently creating art, whether I'm working on these specific paintings or I'm working on other ones. And I have to balance my priorities when it comes to filming and reviews and the kinds of artwork that I'm sharing with you, along with creating just for myself. So these are things that are always going on simultaneously, and I go back and forth. Now, I actually, once I got close to finishing him, I decided to take a little bit of time off from putting pressure on myself for YouTube so that I could get him done. Because once I got to that point where I'm like, oh, he's got a face. I'm like, we're heading towards the finish line here. I want to keep going. And I got that momentum, and I pushed through so that I could finish him. And it really didn't take that long once I got his face laid in to do the rest of it. And I'm like, you know what? I could bang this out in a night. And put like an hour and a half in or 2 hours in the evening, and I got it done, and I'm super excited about it. So that will happen occasionally as well, because he did deserve a little bit of attention. Once, I think, not even once I got the face laid in. I think once I got the eye laid in and he was on the easel staring at me, I'm like, I know, honey, I'm coming for you. I'm coming back. And so sometimes you have to kind of put other things aside too, so that you can prioritize the art that's just for you. But, you know, it's all about balance. And I hesitated to even put this video out because, again, a lot of you have found me through my pencil content, and you may not be interested in an acrylic painting, and you may not be interested in hearing about the projects that I do just for me. You might just be here for the product reviews, and I respect that. I've got plenty of those videos, and there's more of those to come. But I do think that there is something to be said for sharing other aspects of your artistic life when you are a content creator, because there's more than just product reviews in my life. You know, I am an artist first. That's why I started this channel. I'm on an artistic journey, and projects like these are a big part of my artistic journey. And plus, look at him. He's so cute. How could I not share him with you? Like, Frankie needs his time to shine. He wants to say hello. So do you ever work on projects like this? Do you ever have big projects that you do in the background? I do love doing quick projects. You see plenty of those on the channel, but occasionally I want a marathon, and this one was a marathon, and I'm very happy with how he came out, and I'm excited to start my next big project like this. And yeah, so let me know what kinds of projects do you have going on in the background? Do you do any art just for yourself? I also have a sketchbook where I do a lot of artwork that I don't necessarily share with other people. I think that that's very important to have sometimes. And I think it's a very therapeutic part of being an artist. So let me know what kinds of projects you like to do behind the scenes, and if you also find it important to have those kinds of projects in your life. I'm very excited about this painting, and I'm really happy with him. If you want to see more acrylic artwork on my channel, let me know. I know that this isn't any sort of tutorial or anything like that, and I hope that me yapping on about my process didn't bore you too much, but let me know if you'd like to see more acrylics, because I want to work with acrylics more often. I have a lot of experience with acrylics. I've worked with acrylics almost exclusively for many years before I discovered colored pencil, and so it was nice to get back to an old favorite medium of mine, and if you want to see more of it, I'm willing. Here we go with those beautiful highlights on the eye, and Frankie, the Prince of the Pond, is finally complete after years of planning and months of painting. Okay, folks, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I know it was a little bit different. I'm going to be getting back to my regular content soon. I will be posting a video tour of my acrylics pretty soon, because that's part of a series I've been working on where I'm showing you the different kinds of art supplies I have. And I will be getting back to some watercolor pencil reviews. So thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.